Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to break down the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. This has been a much hyped foundation, a much talked about already foundation. I know I'm a little late to the game, but I like to wear stuff before I talk about it. So I've had this for over a week and I have been testing it. Was very excited for the launch. If you aren't familiar with my channel, I am ride or die Charlotte fan. However, there are several, I wouldn't say several, but quite a few Charlotte products that are just no-goes for me. So one being her Magic Foundation, that was her previous release. So I was pretty anxious to test this out. I want to do a pretty quick and concise review because, I don't know, reviews are just kind of muddled right now with foundations. So I'm going to break this down for you, show you a little bit of application and also wear throughout the day. And that's going to be that. So if you're not familiar with my reviews, I leave the price, the shade range, everything like that down below. That's something you can easily Google. I will talk about my shade briefly. I chose the shade 3 Neutral. It's a bit light on me right now. I have a problem, especially with Charlotte foundations, ordering shades that are too dark. So I really wanted to make sure that I got something that would lead me into the winter time that I could wear. 3 Neutral, it actually matched me very, very well last week, and then I went to the lake this weekend and got a bit of sun. So I'd say more accurately right now, I'm probably more of like a 4N or 4W if you want to go off of my skin tone currently. So I want to start with the pros on this foundation. There's something that's very interesting about this formula that I think does make it stand out a little bit. And personally, I think it looks better as it wears throughout the day. And that's something that you don't really commonly find in a lot of foundations. A lot of foundations, as they wear throughout the day, they tend to look greasy. Maybe they settle terribly into, your skin and your pores. I absolutely don't find this foundation to do that. It's very shocking because the first day I wore this, I worked out. It's still very hot in Tennessee right now. It's in the 90s. And I was outside quite a bit. And I looked in my mirror midday and I thought, it looks good. And as I've worn it the past several days, I've found that it really does look flattering as you wear it throughout the day. What's really interesting is that I actually hate the way it looks on my skin when it first goes on. When I first apply this, I kind of thought like, okay, here we go again, another Magic foundation. That foundation just sits terribly on my skin. I could never get it to work for me. And I kind of got the same impression when I applied this for the first time. Just the texture of it to me was a little bit similar to the Magic foundation. The way it was going on, it just kind of looked like it was just sitting there. And then after I got everything else on, just a little bit of translucent powder, I tried to use most of my Charlotte products with this foundation. I was just, again, very, very weird to me because normally if a foundation goes on and I don't like the way it looks, it's not going to look better throughout the day. It's not going to improve. But I don't know. The second pro, in my opinion, is that it is a very versatile finish. I was reading and seeing on all of the promos and the demos that this was going to be a very matte foundation or that it had a matte finish. I would say that it does set a little bit more on like the demi matte side, but it's not a flat matte foundation. It's not a Kat Von D Lock-It, tattoo foundation or whatever that one was called. That, you know what I mean. That just goes on and it's like instantly powder or it's instantly just super flat. It actually is very versatile. I have normal to dry skin and I don't find it to look drying on me at all. It actually has the claim that it's supposed to offer hydration. And again, throughout the day, I don't feel like it's matte and drying my skin out. I don't feel like it ends up looking flat. It just has a nice versatile formula to where I feel like if you are the oiliest of skin to the driest of skin, you could probably wear this foundation. Absolutely phenomenal lasting power. That's again another strong point for me with this foundation is that I work out 5 days a week. I do strength, I do cardio. I'm normally very sweaty after I leave. Again, it's very hot out and like I said, I feel that it wears better as the day goes on, and I haven't had any complaints with how it looks on my skin and my face by the end of the day. So, and I also haven't found that it's coming off. I commonly, with foundations, they like to come off around my jawline. I don't find that to happen with this foundation. Very, very good lasting power for me, at least. All right, I want to break down some cons with this foundation. The cons weren't as bad as I was expecting. Like I said, when I first started wearing this, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, this one's not gonna be for me. But the cons actually aren't anything that are drastic. They are just some things that I felt needed to be pointed out. The first is the smell. I am pretty sensitive to scents and foundations. I absolutely cannot stand a fragrance foundation or a foundation that has strong fragrance. This to me is somewhere in the mid-range, and I cannot point out the smell, but to me it is very unpleasant. I don't like the smell of it. However, I would say that it only lingers for a few hours. I can smell it for a few hours even after applying and setting and all of that jazz. I can still smell it, I would say, for about 2 to 3 hours before either I just don't notice it anymore or it just kind of fades away. So might want to smell it if you are sensitive to, fragrance or scent in general, because it does definitely have something going on with the smell. I don't particularly find this foundation to be very customizable as far as the coverage goes. I know it is marketed as a medium full coverage foundation, and that's probably how it should be worn. But if you are someone who likes more sheer to light coverage, I wouldn't necessarily say that it looks great being worn that way on the skin. If you want something that is more of a skin-like appearance, I would just recommend going for Light Wonder, which is one of my all-time favorite foundation formulas, not just from Charlotte, but in general. So yeah, if you are that sheer light, even light medium coverage person, I would definitely say that I find this to look better being worn as it's marketed, which is a medium to full coverage. It needs to be set with powder, in my opinion. I don't find that it dries down enough to where I can just wear it without setting it with something. I think it looks best with a translucent powder. Today I'm actually wearing it with a pressed powder, and I wore it one other day with a pressed powder and remembered I didn't like the way it looked on my skin as much. I much prefer this foundation to be sat with a smoothing translucent powder, and I think that's because it does offer quite a bit of coverage, and then me just layering something else on top that has even a semi amount of coverage, it's just too much for my skin and for my actual preference. So yeah, I do think it needs to be sat with something. My final point is kind of going back to that first point that I made about it being airbrush and making the skin look flawless and poreless. It is going to settle in some areas like any other foundation would. It just, there's absolutely, I will be floored the day that a foundation can sit on top of the skin and not sink into a fine line or sink into the pore. It's just that's gonna be the bamboozler day for me. So, if I am looking at my skin close up, I am gonna see that, it's settled a little bit in the fine lines, it's settled on the forehead, but not to the point to where it looks just completely unflattering. I've had some foundations that just absolutely accentuate every single part of my face that I don't want to be accentuated, and I don't find that it does this. But if you are looking at my skin close up, you're going to be able to see that it's settled. If you're looking at me from this angle, it looks great. It looks absolutely smooth, airbrush flawless, just like they market it. But just know that you are going to find some settling with it. If you're expecting the complete airbrush effect with it, I just wanted to throw that out there. So, final thoughts, final consensus. If you're a Charlotte Tilbury fan, you're gonna buy it regardless, just like I did. As far as how much I like it, definitely don't like it as much as my Light Wonder, but that's just me, that's my preference. I prefer more of a light coverage. I prefer that skin-like, hyper-realistic look, and I prefer something that is more on the dewy side, and that's absolutely the Light Wonder foundation. Now, I would say that I like it definitely a lot better than Magic Foundation. Magic Foundation just, yeah, if you saw my review of that, then you know. Now, I would definitely say that it is a very high bump up from Magic Foundation for me. Magic Foundation just, it wasn't it for me. And this formula, I like it much better. I can definitely see myself reaching for this maybe when I do want to just go for that full out, you know, full on medium full coverage. But do I see myself wearing this on a daily basis? Not exactly. Like I said, I think it wears better in more of the medium to full category, and I just don't go for that on a daily basis. However, it is definitely going to be one that I might choose from for my fuller coverage looks. So, yeah, that's my final opinion on it. More pros definitely with it than I would say cons. And also, if you are someone that is into the medium full coverage realm, you'll probably really enjoy this foundation. If you're someone who, again, likes sheer coverage, light coverage, it's not going to be in your ballpark at all. And then finally, I think one of its best attributes is that it does wear really nicely throughout the day, and that it's also versatile for pretty much any skin type. I could see any skin type wearing this foundation. So, hope you enjoyed the review. This is probably a little bit longer than what I had anticipated, but I hope I answered all the questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them down below. All info, pricing, stuff like that will be in the info box as well. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.